I'm going to start this off with a poll to figure out what the crowd is like. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So if you can all kind of go and fill in this poll to see just where we're at in terms of the crowd. I'll give it about a minute or so more. Okay, so it seems like there are a lot of fourth years and a couple of second years and a couple of third years as well. I did have another question. Well, okay, I'm not sure why that's not working, so we can just go ahead and get started with this. Okay, so again, just to reintroduce myself to everyone, I am Cicely. I'm a fourth year bioengineer, and I'm also a content tutor, and I've been working with the Teaching and Learning Commons for over a year now, and I teach physics and math. So the other thing to get to know you guys is, have you ever been to the Commons before, or have you used any of the other services like the Writing Hub or Learning Strategists? You can go ahead and enter in the chat or unmute yourself whenever you want. Okay, so I see that a lot of people have used, some people have been to the Commons and others have not. Well, this is just a way of knowing what are the resources available to you and how exactly we can manage our time in the pandemic. So the learning objectives for this workshop are first to identify some learning strategies related to engineering specifically, how to evaluate the obstacles and barriers that may occur, especially in these times, to create personalized schedules, and how we can manage the intersection of time management and self care. So the first thing I will recommend is that if you can try to take along notes for tips and tricks that can potentially help you, or if something that you can find that you find interesting, to try to take a note of it. We do have some activities coming up, so if you do want to take notes for that as well, that could help you. So Also, this workshop is aimed at evaluating the type of organization you currently are at, accurately managing the time it takes to complete a task, addressing changes to your schedule, and how to prioritize tasks that need to be done, understanding how to incorporate self care into your daily schedule, and by using the necessary resources to become efficient in identifying the key concepts to study. So, the first thing is, how do you start to manage your time? The syllabus and the course calendar are good ways of starting, as you need all your kind of deadlines in front of you to know exactly when you need to organize and when you need to manage your time. That being said, planners and calendars don't really work for everybody, but this is a good way to start to see when the deadlines are, especially for bigger things like midterms or reports. Um, and I will say this as like a general rule for everything coming up. There's going to be a lot of tips and tricks, and it can be easy to get overwhelmed with all the different strategies. The tip is to try one and then start from there and see how it goes. So, so here specifically, we're going to talk about how to use a bigger idea and then narrow it down to smaller weekly or even daily to-do lists. So the first thing is for, goal setting for your study sessions. So not seeing the end goal is obviously very disheartening, especially it's just in a day-to-day or a weekly basis. So setting your goals as a tangible goal, which is, setting examples for yourself to solve, or like to solve problems, or instead of using a time period as a goal. So instead of setting a goal of I will study for 2 hours, setting a goal of I will finish 5 problems. And it doesn't matter if it takes you 1 hour or 6 hours to do that, you still can see the end result. The next thing to know is that to reevaluate yourself and think about low energy and high energy tasks that need to be done. For example, some people are morning people and some people are night owls, but identifying when you are most productive and doing the high energy tasks during that time, like really tough homeworks or lab reports, can be done during when you are most active. And when you realize you are lower on energy, you can do the tasks that don't take that much mental energy, things like taking notes or rewatching lectures. So this kind of a breakdown of your time can help you study with intent. And this keeps you on time when you are studying. So by setting a goal, studying with focus, and making sure to take some time to reward yourself is also very important. And here, previewing and attending is pretty fast, but this strategy again varies from person to person. This kind of a format can be applied to any types of work which needs to be done, but the aim is to try to do at least 30 minutes to an hour of concentrated work. And after that point, try to unwind or relax or even just review the topic to avoid mental fatigue and stagnation. And make sure to take 5 minutes to just review. Do you need silence or a different location? Can you download your notes and work offline in another spot for a bit? Do you need some music playing in the background? Taking the time to re-evaluate your setting can help you work more productively later on. So the first thing to realize is, how do you get into the right mental state to study? And that is in terms of both your environment and your setting. What do you need to study? Everyone has different methods. For example, do you need music to solve problems? Or do you need silence to write an essay? And identifying these kind of both physical and mental strategies will help you work and concentrate. The physical being items like, do you need your books, your notes, your textbook, or personal things like, do you need silence or music playing, or do you need to be in a certain setting? Identifying what works for you and for which subjects can help you be productive in different areas. Now, obviously, we're all at home, and working at home is a big change. So, identifying which part of the house or how you can change your setting, your environment to work better might help you work better as well. And if you are interested in learning more about these different kind of strategies, you can book an appointment with the learning strategist who can help you with the metacognitive strategies. So we're just going to have a small thinking activity here, which is we're going to take a couple of minutes to think about what what helps you study for certain subjects and what environment do you need for certain subjects. And if you want, you can go ahead and put it in the chat as well, or unmute yourself and you can kind of share it with the group.
I can go. Personally, a big thing that's worked for me is separating a space to study from a space to do everything else. So if I end up doing most of my studying in my bedroom, I kind of associate the school stress with my bedroom, and that's not the feeling I want to have when I'm trying to go to sleep or just watch a movie or something. So working somewhere else helps me out in that way.
Right, yeah, exactly. Figuring out your space and your environment. Does this seem like other people also does anyone agree with the strategy? Okay, yeah, great. Are there any specific strategies that you use for specific subjects or different types of work?
I think in general for me, what really helps is just putting my phone to the side and not touching it and telling myself I'm going to study for. I really like this app where I can grow trees. It's called Forest, I think, and you can grow trees if you don't like touch your phone for a period of time. And it's really sad if I kill the tree by opening up my phone. So that can help me.
Right, yeah. And if you can go ahead and put that in the chat so that everyone could hear the name of the app. But that sounds like a really good way to make you focus and make sure you're not being distracted by others. So this was just kind of an activity to help you think about what type of learner you are. Do you need to read and take notes for a certain type of subject? Do you need to make concept maps or create charts and figures to increase engagement? Doing practice problems or rewatching lectures? How exactly do you learn? By identifying these strategies, you can save time and make sure you are applying the right strategy for the right subject. And just thinking about what have you found successful so far in how you interact with your content. So the next thing is your environment. Once you've organized your headspace, once you've organized your notes and what all you need to be in the right environment. And like said before, what can really help, especially now and that we're all kind of quarantined inside our houses, is to create different zones in the house to make sure that um, sorry, to make sure that you know how to differentiate between your academic type of work versus when you are taking care of yourself. So this might also be influenced by older habits, like if you were used to using your living room to socialize with your family or to just kind of relax. Studying in that environment might not be the most productive as you are not used to that. So re-evaluating your habits and making sure you know you're in the right environment and headspace will also help with this. And this can also help with when you are struggling to start an assignment or you're struggling to do a certain task. By identifying that you are in the right zone, you can connect it back to the environment and kind of tell yourself that when I'm in this environment, this is what I need to focus on, which leads into the next thing, which is personal responsibilities and health. This is one of the most important parts because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to perform academically. So this relates to the previous slide in the sense that if you have designated certain zones in your house for academics, try to segregate certain other zones for when you want to relax. Like don't try to mix up the two, which might lead to unorganized headspaces. But again, these are strategies that might not work for everyone. These are just potential tips and tricks. The next thing about personal responsibilities is that you have to make the mental shift to I'm not going to worry about school for a couple of minutes. I'm just going to take care of myself. And and that's okay if you're too tired or you're too stressed to accurately or fully do everything. It's just small things here and there. Like if you're too tired to make a meal, try to eat some fruit or eat some high calorie food instead. Or if you're too mentally drained to take a shower, washing your face is enough, or even just like a 20-minute power nap or a walk. By normalizing this in your schedule and making time for it as part of the 5 or 10 minutes that we talked about before, this will help you like come back to your schoolwork in a in a fresh state of mind. So this leads into the potential resources that are available on campus. If you do need CAPS, if you do need um, help about talking about some issues, CAPS is there to provide support in many areas related to self-care, personal time management, and responsibilities. The academic advisors are available for advising about major classes and scheduling, and booking an appointment there can help you organize your classes and how you need to move forward. And the learning strategists are part of the comments where they can help you with the metacognitive strategies, which is how do you learn? How can you make your learning strategies better? How can you kind of reevaluate how you currently study and learn and change it to something more productive? So these are all the resources available to you. And additional points of contact or additional ways that you can help are the first is something that I have used personally a lot in my first and second year, which are engineering learning communities, which they have smaller classes for the lower division math and physics classes, especially for engineers. And they can help you kind of make sure you are on track week by week by giving you problems and making you practice. And this is also a good way to find peers around you. Engineering organizations are very important to find peer groups and to find people in your major, in your classes, to form connections and to make sure that you have some support in these classes. We're going to go back to another thinking activity, which is what do you like to do for yourself? And what are some activities that you consider part of your personal self care? And something I would like to think about, and if you guys want to, you can put it in the chat or unmute yourself, is what did you do over winter break that you wish you had time to incorporate into your daily schedule? And try to think about how you can manage your time to incorporate these things.
I can go. I like playing guitar, and I think music is a big stress buster for me. So I just generally keep my guitar close to me while I'm working, and I take like 5 minute breaks here and there just to play in the middle and then get back to work, and that seems to help me a lot in staying productive.
Right. Yeah. Making sure to take 5 or 10 minutes in the day to shift to something that you really want to do. What else? What are some? I see some comments in the chat, which is taking naps. That's taking naps and watching small videos. Yeah, that's definitely a really good way to kind of break away from the academics for a couple of minutes and then get back to it with renewed vigor. Right. So I see a lot of comments and about hobbies that we like to do. Now, let's take a couple of minutes to think about how we can incorporate this into our personal schedules and how we can make sure that we're taking time for ourselves. Does anybody want to share how they want to take something that they did over winter break and incorporate it into their schedule?
Yeah, I can say I read about this thing called the Pomodoro technique or something like that. I don't know why it's called that, but basically it says in an hour you take 40 minutes to do work and then take the rest of the 20 minutes to as a break. And personally for me, having that kind of a schedule works better than having 4 hours of continuous work, because I get to reward myself with a break of a guitar or a video or whatever it is every 40 minutes. So it helps me keep going for a bit longer.
Right. Yeah, that's a great way of thinking about it. Of 40 minutes of really concentrated work and taking 10-15 minutes to relax and kind of shift from place to place.
I find that I find like for me personally, in about like the mid afternoon or early afternoon, I'll start like feeling very sluggish and like like I just want to nap. So I've been finding that like doing like even a few minutes of like exercise, like it really helps to wake me up and like get back to work. So
Yeah, exactly. Strategies like that could help kind of avoid the mid afternoon slump, or when you're feeling really tired and sleepy from a lot of work, making sure to take that break and to make sure you're moving around and getting some oxygen will also help. Okay, so moving on. Now that we've kind of talked about the balance between academics and self care, this can lead into what is distraction and what is self care. So, what would you think is a distraction, but or what would you think is something that can start off with self care but can lead into distraction? Anyone in the
um,
chat?
for me, sometimes when I take breaks, I like to like take like 10 minutes to like try and clean up. But sometimes I can get a little carried away with it and I'll be like, okay, cleaning is easier than doing my homework. I'll just clean for the next hour.
Right. Yeah. So it's basically finding the balance between what you need in order to recharge versus what you're doing to avoid your work. But the important part about this is to not beat yourself up if you just need a 20-minute walk or you need to watch TV while having lunch. This will help you feel better and allow you to focus better once you come back to the coursework. Now, obviously, a lot of our work happens through Zoom nowadays. So, holding each other accountable for completing work or to keep track of time, finding your peer group in order to make sure that you all are submitting your work on time, or to even make sure that you're not distracted or doing other activities when you're supposed to be doing your work or you have deadlines coming up. And this is another thing where you can use Zoom if you are easily distracted. You can use it as a tool for someone to keep tabs on you and to make sure that you are accomplishing those tangible goals that we set in the beginning of this workshop. And this is again, we're talking about balancing time. And if there are bad days that happen, we need to make sure that we're not beating ourselves up over this. And we need to realize, well, how do we reorganize our time in order to catch up, even if something does happen? So, thinking about the absolute basic level of things that need to get done ASAP can help you reprioritize your schedules and make sure that you are managing your time better versus what can be diluted out later into other days. For example, if you do have meetings with groups and you do have a last minute assignment that showed up, a way to kind of realize what needs to be done is that to make sure to know what assignments are due and what deadlines are due and how much time can you commit to that versus how much time can you commit on another day when deadlines might not be that restrictive. And this is another way where we can use Zoom or any of these video sharing apps to kind of maintain your deadlines and make sure you are on track by asking your peers about what you missed or what you need to complete. So now, obviously, we're going to have multiple classes, we're going to have multiple different assignments and deadlines. And how do we manage all of these together in our week or in our month or even in the day? So the first thing is to make sure to break assignments down into smaller chunks and using the method of interleaving, which we will talk about in the next slide. So this is again bringing it back to the beginning where we talked about the tangible goals. Like I need to do set number of problems today and making sure you divide your time based on those goals rather than the time itself. So setting a goal in those learnings and making sure to be realistic about what can be done, that gives you some space to switch it around, even if you are mentally fatigued from that particular subject. If you are getting overwhelmed, try doing 10 minutes of it. If you are stuck, you know that you need some help from your TAs or you need to review your notes. But if you can continue, great. Another way to keep yourself in check is by using content tutoring or your discussion sections or even meetings with your peer group to make sure you are in check and making sure that you are keeping up with all your deadlines. So this is a method of interleaving to make sure that you're not mentally fatigued from all the different assignments or deadlines that you have to complete. Making sure to break it into chunks can help you kind of finish multiple different commitments at the same time. And each of these chunks should make sure to make a realistic goal for yourself instead of telling yourself that you're just going to spend 1 hour on chemical equations and then 1 hour on periodic trends, for example. Try to make sure if you understand these many pages or this particular concept or these many problems in that time will make sure that you are kind of keeping all your different commitments on track. And this will make it easier to draw connections and understand the bigger picture. And this will also represent what you might be tested in an exam point of view or in your homework, where there are multiple different concepts being tested at the same time. This gives your brain a break and kind of helps you switch back and forth between the two different topics. Oh, wait, sorry. Let me share this. Oh, sorry about that. So again, in the quarter, things are going to come up. They're going to be unforeseen situations that come up. But the important thing is how do you redistribute the workload to make sure that you are maintaining all your deadlines and you're maintaining what needs to be done. So the way that you can do that is by rethinking about what is the absolute basic necessities, what really needs to be done ASAP versus what can be changed later. And making sure that you are flexible with these kind of goals will also help you maintain calm as you reprioritize this. So we're going to have another activity here, which we're just kind of going to talk about these different situations and see what we can do in each of these different situations. So the first one is you have to study for 7 hours on Zoom with your engineering team on Monday and Tuesday. How would you incorporate time for self-care? And I invite you to either share in the chat or you can unmute yourself if you want to. Yeah,
I think
stretching breaks, food breaks. Go ahead.
I think also if you're in a Zoom call with people and you're studying, maybe like deciding beforehand that you would take breaks every hour or every hour and a half or whatever your plan is. Having some sort of plan to take breaks might also be helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Making sure you communicate with the team and making sure that you together as a team take breaks, make sure you're all accountable and that you can all kind of take breaks at the same time. Yep, definitely. And I'm seeing some good comments here in the chat, which is asking the engineering team if they want to take a break together, taking a break for fruits and snacks, making sure to stretch out your back because we all sit in front of our laptops all this time, taking making sure your eyes also take a break, trying to get the harder stuff done first when you feel less burnt out. Yep, definitely. Okay, we can move on to the next situation, which is you missed an assignment that needs to be completed. How do you make time for it in your schedule if you already have a weekly plan? Wake up earlier to finish it. Yep, great. Yeah, managing the time between when you relax and when you need to work is a strategy for trying to get things done when you are on a time crunch. So I will also say by refocusing on what absolutely needs to get done, and then whatever commitments you do have, if you can break it down into smaller pieces so that you can get smaller pieces of all your commitments or all of your deadlines or assignments done, and then kind of using the strategies of interleaving to make sure that you are still on track. If there is something challenging, you can always bring it up with your TAs or your instructor, and that will kind of help you reorganize as well. So sometimes, if you are too overwhelmed with assignments, submitting something is better than not submitting anything at all. Trying to get some basic formulae down or showing the TAs that you've understood the concepts conceptually, even if you don't have time to fully complete it, will be better than not submitting an assignment at all. And and you are definitely going to get some partial credit for that. So getting that is better than not submitting, even if you are on a time crunch. But the important thing is to make sure that you follow up with the information, either with your TA or with your peer group or by reviewing the notes to make sure you are still on track of that material before solving the next week's homework or next week's assignments, which may depend on this current week material. I have to mention that in time crunches, remember to maintain academic integrity because situations may occur as a result of feeling intense pressure, and you may ask for assistance from your peers, but remember to try to maintain academic integrity as you're solving your assignments. And this is also a good time to try to reevaluate what your schedule has been like so far. Did you need to change anything, or did you need to kind of rework what needs to be done when? Or did you even need to change something for the next week in order to plan it better? Did anybody have any questions so far? Yep, exactly. There was a comment in the chat asking the TA for a potential extension. The TAs are human and they are students as well. Most likely, they will understand what you're going through. And if you are going through a really hard week, making sure to submit whatever you do understand and whatever you do know, and then emailing them and telling them about the situation, they can usually help to work something out or potentially even give you an extension. But that obviously depends on the individual TAs and the course. So the next thing is updating calendars because things will keep popping up on the fly every week and when things keep popping up, this might be anxiety producing or distracting. Usually you can kind of categorize these into a quick task, a medium task, or a large task. And the examples are on the slide shown. What would you potentially do for these kind of tasks? And how do you incorporate this into your schedule when things keep popping up?
So for something like a quick task, like the example is writing an email, what I sometimes do is while I'm cooking lunch or dinner, like while something is just cooking, I bring my laptop out into the kitchen counter and I work on it while doing that. And it's something that only really takes about 5 to 10 minutes to get done. So you can simultaneously do it with a household chore. So that's just one of the ways that I try to get some of those quick tasks done.
Right. Making sure that you are incorporating this as you're doing something else, make sure that you get all these tasks done. Does anybody else have any strategies that they use to figure out how to incorporate these?
For me, sometimes I guess if it's like a small task that's still important, but like I might forget, I'll set a reminder on my phone to remind me in like, let's say an hour or two, like let's say after class or something. So then I don't forget to do it.
Yeah, setting reminders, making sure you don't forget it. What I would suggest is if it's a really quick task, something like that takes under 5 minutes, do it right then and there. And that would kind of help you to make sure you're not putting it aside for later or having to rethink about it. You're just doing it. It takes 5 minutes, it's done. You don't have to think about it anymore. If it is something like a medium task, which might take 20 to 30 minutes, use that as a break from your current task when you have accomplished your goal for that task. But be smart about this and don't drop it right away. But make sure that you are incorporating this as part of your break time or making sure you do it in the immediate future. But a large task, for example, a new homework that you realize um, was due very soon, or something like meetings or your work schedule, something that cannot be fully accounted for later on. If you can, try to break it up into smaller pieces or try to work around that task that needs to be done to make sure that you're accomplishing all of your tasks. So now that we're all working online a lot more, a part of this is organization and how to organize your online work. And I will say there are different methods and tricks for everyone, and they all work differently for every student. But these are some examples of what you can do and which on what are very common. So something like desktop organization, where you create folders for every course, for example, and then have all your files related to that course, making sure that you are not getting overwhelmed by the files. Things like creating folders or groups in in your particular search engine of choice, like Chrome or Safari or Firefox, all have ways of organizing tabs, which can help you make sure you're not being overwhelmed by the amount of work that you have. Another way is things like using Discord for if you do have too many tabs open, making sure to copy those links and save it in different channels in something like Discord could help you organize not only different courses, but different aspects about your life. These are just some potential tips and tricks to help you organizing the online environment to make sure you're not being overwhelmed or to make sure that you are not kind of seeing all your tasks together at once and spending too much time focusing on what needs to be done rather than what you need to do. So, just to summarize, time management is not just about creating calendars, it's how you prioritize and readjust to life situations to make sure that you are setting specific and realistic goals, not only in the short term, but also in the long term, identifying your space and your productive environment, finding time for self care, making sure to be flexible and to not beat yourself up if something does happen, but taking a minute to take a step back and reorganize and try to work through your schedule. And this should and these things when it happens should not be a barrier to your success. And also to use the resources available to you. Do you have any questions so far? If not, there's just a quick survey and I can put it in the chat as well about this workshop. And for potential more resources, you can visit the website, which has all of the different services that the Commons provide. So I will go ahead and put this link in the chat. And if you can take the survey, about this workshop. And also, if you can private message me your PIDs so I can log you in as attendance from the Commons. Your PID or your email, either one. Great.
So as a reminder, please be sure to take the survey that Cicely dropped. Other than that, thank you so much for attending today's WISE session. I hope you all got some really great nuggets of information. This presentation was recorded, so you will see it within the next week on our Idea Center YouTube channel. Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you.